Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach, and this is Artsbeat Radio and Television, coming to you today from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, our new studio that combines radio and TV with assistance from students studying broadcasting, television, and all that good stuff here at Westfield Tech. Joining me is Patrick Berry, my oftentimes co-host here.
Thank you
Artsbeat
for having
Radio.
me, Mark. I appreciate it.
Always great to have you, Patrick.
Always a blast.
And from Berkkshire Theatre Group, who is presenting A Christmas Carol, the director, Travis Daly, and the adapter and Scrooge, Eric Hill. Welcome, guys. I feel like it's family week here on the radio.
Hello.
You know, my favorite people from Berkkshire Theatre Group, and I've got to just get completely off the arts thing, but if people know I was in an accident back in April, and the Berkkshire Theatre Group, Eric Hill and his wife, Kate McGuire, sent me a plant. And they
Is it still alive?
No, I killed it. I was just going to say, Kate said to me, you don't have to water it. You don't have to do anything with it. Put it outside and it'll last forever. And it lasted until the deep freeze right before Thanksgiving when I forgot to bring it in.
Yeah.
You know?
Plastic plants next time around.
Next time around, plastic. So I don't know how many years A Christmas Carol has been at Berkkshire Theatre Group, but Eric, you adapted it for another theater.
I adapted it for Stage West in Springfield.
That's right. So I can't remember how many years ago it was, but have you readapted? Yeah, I'm sure. Have you readapted it at all over the years? Or
No, it's very much the same adaptation. Certainly the physical production has changed from the Stage West production, but no, it's the same basic adaptation.
So, Eric, why has it changed? Why is it morphed from the Stage West version to the Berkkshire Theatre Group version? Different size stages?
Yeah, different. Well, the stage in as you know at Stage West is a fairly large thrust stage. We do it now at the Colonial, which is a proscenium stage, so it's a very different kind of look at the entire set. But it was different even in the Unicorn when we did it there. We've done it 14. This is our 14th time at the Berkkshire Theatre Group.
Wow.
I did it 4 times at Stage West. I played Scrooge twice. I directed it once, played Scrooge once in the narrator. No, twice in the narrator once. So that would make, if you add that all together, this would be, from those 2 productions, this would make my 18th time.
Wow. What about you, Travis? When did you get involved in it? And I know you're directing it this year. You did last year, but how many times have you directed it?
I think this is my 5th or 6th year working on the show. I was actually in the second one we did at the Unicorn. I played like the solicitor and Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, and then 5 or 6 years ago started co-directing, and then kind of took over directing the show. And
do you change it year to year? Do you tweak it, or are there things that work one year that you want to fix the next? And will the adapter work with you to make that happen?
Absolutely. I mean, it's always a team effort, but little things will change. A big part of things changing will be the cast you have and their strengths or their types and how you want to just mold them as a group to tell the story. But, once in a while we will adjust sort of arrivals of characters and their entrances and exits, and may punch up some of the set, every couple of years just to keep it a little bit fresh.
Travis, you bring up a good point. Just annually for the actors. Are there any actors, like Eric said, he played roles a few times. Do you have any actors that come back year after year, or do you try and start from scratch with a new group every year?
Well, I want to say year to year, probably half the cast has been in previous productions, whether they're
previous productions of this
show,
okay.
Yeah, with us, whether they're chorus or Dickens, Christmas Past, and if they've been in it, they also could get shuffled around and play some different roles. That seems to happen every few years as well.
And that must be good for the actor too, to not be, I guess, not typecast. Right, really isn't the right word, but do the same role year after year. So you got to move.
Well, you also have to recognize that the children who come back year after year are older.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I've done it 14 times, which I have. I've seen kids go from playing, Tiny Tim or one of the Cratchit kids who's now grown up and playing Belle or Mrs. Fred, or
That's funny.
And so
Good,
you've seen them year after year, or one of the ghosts, for example. The kids get better with time as they get to be better actors and they grow. And so part of what we do really with this production is, since it's really all about the children at some level, the whole thing, in particular, from our point of view, we really enjoy taking the children who work in our programs from the school's programs with what Travis does to the summer programs and the musicals that we do. We like to keep working those children through our program over extended periods of time, so they come back and then we see them develop into these roles.
Right.
So yeah, half the cast may be new, but everybody who shows up knows that they are participating in something that already has a life of its own, and that they're now going to bring their additional abilities to whatever aspect of that.
I'm sure Mark's going to talk about the wonderful educational aspect of Berkshire Theater Group, but you hit the nail on the head. Watching these kids come in young and mature in their skill set to 5-10 years later to be very, very talented young performers.
That's correct. And of course, every kid who joins us has brothers, sisters, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. So the whole event becomes a family event, and every kid who walks through, sees or sits in the audience, sees kids on the stage, and they go, "Oh, wow,
I want to do that.
I want to do that, or I could do that." And so there's a general community excitement that has a snowball effect.
Right. I'm sure some of the adults do that too. I get involved in that, so it's not just for kids.
And not at all. And this year, for the first time, we have a parent who is actually in the show.
Excellent.
And that, of course, brings in all kinds of elements, like now I have to watch what I say, that kind of thing. Because I didn't care about the kids hearing me, but now there's an
audience,
an audience that I don't want to hear that.
It's funny, but a couple of years ago, Patrick and I came up there to Berkshire Theater Group in the summer and taped a couple of hours special with you and directors and actors and some of the apprentices or young. And there was one girl who was in high school at the time, and she's now at UMass. Her name, I can't remember her.
Hannah Casella.
Hannah Casella.
Yep. Wow, yeah.
And she had been in Christmas Carol and other things from probably the time she was an early teen, and she went on to UMass to major in theater. And at the one show that I came to see last summer, she was involved in it, and she recognized me, and she came up, and I said, "Well, how do you like, being at UMass and all that?" She says, "I started here and I grew up here, and now I'm in another place." And I'm sure some of these kids have the same aspirations.
Oh yeah, they do. Of course they do. It's nice for them to feel like they have a home, an artistic home base, and people who do recognize and see them evolving and developing at a very young age. This is the age group when they become extremely nervous about their prospects because the profession looms large. They're only a couple of years away from being out into the big world, and so that suddenly they begin to consider the reality of what they're doing. It's nice to know that they have a home base and people who can keep an eye on what their development looks like.
Just to take a sidetrack to that, do you get a lot of, over the years that you've been involved in BTG, have you had a lot of the kids that grew up through theater, moved on to different markets, different theaters around the country, around the world, come back home to the Berkshires?
Yes, we do, of course, and they bring back an experience that probably they needed to go have somewhere else, and coming home is always nice. But the theater world is a large world, as your question implies, and we certainly love to cultivate the kids. We love having them here, but we all are fully aware that what we hope for them is that we are a launching pad for something that could go any number of directions, and we would like that.
Is BTG unique in that, or do other theaters around the country, around the world, do the same thing and cultivate the kids as the next crop of actors?
Well, I think certain theaters, have that as their focus, and certain theaters do have comprehensive programs to that effect, but of course, I'm not going to admit that anybody else does it better, and certainly having a hands-in role with doing this on a regular basis with Travis. I know the number of kids that we deal with. I know the kind of kids who come through. I know that there are, without identifying any individual children, I know there are kids in our programs who have difficulties in their lives that are substantial.
Wow.
And the coming to the theater is a place to come and be a part of a different kind of
Escape.
family. It's not their home family, but it is a family of sorts, and that they can feel safe. They can feel that they're able to express themselves. They're able to feel joy and expression, and most of all, they're able to experience community and creating something with another group, with a group of people. That is an extraordinarily valuable experience for those kids.
Across the entire arts world, it's valuable.
That's
Whether it's
right.
musicians or what, just being able to get out of whatever environment that they're in
Right.
and being able to express themselves
Correct.
in whatever channel is
channel.
such a benefit to a child.
I couldn't agree more, whether it's music or art or whatever. But we do offer that, and it's the important thing, and I think that the thing that parents enjoy the most about it is it's live. The people, the kids turn off their telephones, they put the phones aside, and they engage with each other as live, breathing human beings right next to them that they talk to. Our job is to talk to one another live.
Like we are right now.
Like we are right now.
Exactly.
One of the things I notice as a reporter, I've seen your Christmas Carol. I've seen the Hartford Stage one, which is a completely different production.
Yes, yeah.
Hartford Stage is all whistle stops and high tech and special effects. And the adult actors seem to come back year after year. There's a colleague that Eric and I had at Stage West, Noble Shropshire, who I think is doing his 12th or 13th year at Hartford Stage.
What's he playing, Scrooge?
No, he's playing
Ghost of Jacob Marley?
Yeah, he's Marley.
Yeah.
And people fly out of the wings and stuff. So that's one thing. But the thing about Berkshire Theater Groups, it's down home,
Yes.
it's sentimental, and it reaches the heart without any special effects.
That's correct. Well, that was my original goal. I've been doing this play, this story, since I was a very young boy in my grade school. And the play has been with me ever since. I've done it countless times. I haven't just done it in these two theaters that we discussed. I've done it at the Milwaukee Rep. I've done it when I was in school. This play has been with me for a very, very long time. And Christmas, to me, always has Christmas Carol as a part of it, and really at the heart of it, because the story itself is so wonderful and so rich that it just keeps on going.
It spans time.
It spans time.
Absolutely.
It has all of the elements of a great story. It has ghosts. It has time travel. It has a love story. And mostly what it has and what people want to see is it has a simple redemption story where a child's life is saved.
Right.
And that's simple. We live in such a complex world. Trying to get the story straight, listening to the hearings yesterday, if you try to get this truth straight, it's a very complex thing. It boggles people's mind. They get tired of it. But if you come to see A Christmas Carol, your brain is engaged in a way that is completely soothed by the experience of hearing a story of transformation and redemption, and where goodness actually and the truth are not hard to discover.
Actually, it's escapism too, because you go into this world of the theater to see A Christmas Carol. You can forget everything else that's going on. A couple of weeks
Well,
ago,
you can forget everything except, I like that up to the point where you can forget everything except that the choices we make on a daily basis about how we treat one another is something that we can never forget.
Right.
So it goes to, yes, you escape, but the escape leads you to a deeper reality that is not an escape, but a call to responsibility, I think. So,
Yeah.
so with that, with all
An
due respect,
education, a learning moment.
Slight
Yeah.
qualification.
Yeah, I mean, there's something redeeming about seeing something like A Christmas Carol.
Absolutely.
You walk out, but it is escapism, and for the fact that you can just forget everything else that's
Correct.
going on in your world and sit there and see a story well done and come out with a sense of feeling better.
Right, and not only see a story, but to hear a story. This is Dickens. Next to Shakespeare, there isn't anybody in the English language who writes it better. It captures language that captures so much. And not only that, it's a Christmas carol. So it is filled with music of all kinds. And, whether you are, of the, Christmas carol sort of type or not, you do get an incredible sense of the uplift of music in this kind of story. It's a dark world, Dickens' London.
Right.
And the joy that people find, the simple joys that people find to lift themselves up under overwhelmingly difficult circumstances is heart. It's as you say, it lifts your heart.
What year was it written? Do you know offhand?
1854, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's older than I thought. It was late 18s. Okay.
No, he actually came post Civil War and actually read the story in many stops across the United States, many theaters across the United States, and actually many people believe he killed himself pretty much doing that. He never really got the money that he needed. He had this enormous family, enormous debts, and insisted on publishing Christmas Carol a certain kind of way, and didn't make him any money. But although it's his most famous story, but he wrote all of that material and did not end up making any money. So he had to come to the United States to do tours, reading where he read his own story and read Christmas Carol, and that's not a short story.
Right.
Certainly not as short as my adaptation.
Yeah. No, it'd probably take it to read it several hours.
Oh, it would take 4 hours to read, I would assume. Yeah, 3 to 4 hours to read.
So speaking of timelines here, Travis, how long does it take to get A Christmas Carol up and running at Berkshire Theater every year?
We have a rehearsal for a few weeks. I can probably, reblock the play over the course of the first week, and then another, week and a half or so to work through, do some run-throughs, and we have a 3 or 4 day tech period, and then it's performances, and we go from December 7th to the 21st this year.
So I'm sorry, Mark. So if you're starting performances December 7th, when did you, to Mark's point, backing up?
We started Monday.
Monday of what date? What was that date?
Just a few days ago.
November 11th then. No,
Yep.
Okay, so Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Now, was that rehearsals or was that casting?
Rehearsals. We had casting 3 weeks or so ago.
Prior to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right. Interesting. So within 6 weeks, I guess, really, you go from casting to curtain up.
We do, and I think
that's amazing to me.
It is. I mean, we have the formula for this show because we've done it for so many years. I think if it was a play that we hadn't done, you would have more prep time for sure, and probably audition a little bit sooner. And then, depending on how many hours a day you're going to rehearse, you could do it in 3 weeks. You might do it over the course of a few more. Like when we have kids shows going on, we just did Willy Wonka. We had rehearsals for probably 6 weeks, 3 days a week, and did a 40-minute version of Willy Wonka with about 130 kids. So
nice.
All in all, we'll do many shows over the course of the year with our in-school programs, reaching probably 13,000 kids.
Across Berkshire County, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, Mark.
And we will, for our touring show, we're doing a Magic Treehouse one this year, Pirates Past Noon. That will leave Berkshire County, and we'll have other, some people may come from outside the county as well.
Okay, we got to take a quick break to acknowledge our underwriters. Before we do, if you want information about A Christmas Carol and you want to order tickets, go to Berkshire Theater Group's website, which is really easy to remember, berkshiretheatergroup.org. So while we take a break to acknowledge underwriters, you can either go online or they have a phone number if you want to call and talk to a box office person in person. And Artsbeat Radio is made possible by a group of underwriters who we want to acknowledge. I'm Mark Auerbach with Patrick Barry. Peter Coles is our chief engineer, and we'll be right back.
Radio programming is brought to you in part by R. Levesque Associates. They are offering landscape architecture, civil engineering, environmental permitting, and land surveying. RLA is a second-generation company devoted to excellence in the planning and design of outdoor spaces. On the web at rlaland.com or at 40 School Street in Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back, everyone, to Arts Beat Radio. I'm Mark Auerbach. My co-host today is Patrick Berry, and two of the great folks from Berkkshire Theater Group, Eric Hill, who adapted A Christmas Carol and is playing Scrooge this year, and Travis Daly, who's directing it. Once Christmas Carol is over, there's a little time off for you, and you're doing a lot of educational programs in the school. So what are you've got a new play this year that you're touring around and about.
Yeah, so this year we have, it's a Magic Treehouse musical, Pirates Past Noon. So we've been working with Mary Pope Osborne, who's written the book series, and her whole team. Last year we did Showtime with Shakespeare, and we bring it around to most of the elementary and some of the middle schools in the county, and do close to 40 shows during this school year. We also have playwriting and acting classes that we do 4 days to 5 days a week throughout the county with elementary, middle, and sometimes even high school students.
What's the student reaction to you guys showing up to do the playwriting, all the educational aspects? So the individuals that maybe aren't part of Berkkshire Theater Group but are the students at these schools, how do they interact? Is it a welcoming interaction, or are they a little fearful?
Oh yeah, always really, really welcoming. I mean, sometimes, if a kid's acting for the first time, he or she may be a little bit more reluctant to take a positive risk, which is what theater's all about to me, and maybe play an activity or do the first rehearsal. But usually over the course of a couple weeks, if it's one of our residency programs, you see the kids really open up, come out of their shell, and then if they continue to do it, I mean, we've had kids who right now have done 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 shows with us, and to track their growth and progression is really, really special. And with the Magic Treehouse musical this year, so we go into these different schools weekly, and this year's touring show is a cast of elementary, middle, and high school students, and to see them perform for other kids gives them a chance to go, oh wow, I can do that. I want to audition to be in that show next year, or Good. Christmas Carol, a summer show, a kids show that we do like the Willy Wonka one, or one of our junior productions. This past year we did Aladdin Junior and had 120 elementary, middle, wow. and early high school age kids in that production.
That's fantastic.
And do they pick up a professional air after a while? They're very disciplined at what they do, right?
It's one of the most inspiring things to see. I mean, we just had a pickup rehearsal for our Magic Treehouse musical a couple nights ago because we have a show tomorrow morning, and we hadn't done the show in 2 or 3 weeks. We came to our pickup rehearsal. The show's double cast, so we have them performing right next to each other. One group mime saying the words, and one group will actually sing and say the lyrics and dialogue. And to see the way that they were able to just jump right in was one of the coolest theater experiences I've ever had because of how committed they are. You can tell they go home and they do their work and come in ready to tell a story in a really, really exciting way.
I think it's a great experience for them. And again, having interviewed some of the ones that started as kids and worked their way up over the years, you've done a great job in educating and bringing theater into the schools.
So let me ask a question to either of you. if there's a student, a young person who doesn't live in Berkshire County that wants to get involved, how do they? Because as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking here on this side of the Berkshires, I don't. Aside from Pioneer Valley Performing Arts School in South Hadley, I don't really know of any education. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
I don't really know of
actually,
anything.
Interestingly enough, when I was at Stage West, we had such a program, and it did engage these schools in the valley here. But when Stage West went the way of all flesh, that program I think
That's a shame.
ceased to be. But what we do in the Berkshires is modeled very much on what we began when I was at Stage West, when Kate and I were at Stage West.
Well, as we've all experienced it, the local economies are changing, and arts and entertainment are really growing much more so now, I think, than in years past.
That's correct.
And having a program like this, not just in the Pioneer Valley or the Berkshires, but everywhere, to get kids engaged, to be involved in performing arts, I think is so beneficial, not only to the education of the student, but to the local economy of all these communities.
I agree. It really does, though, come down to the community wanting that, and then understanding that when you have something like that, you have to support it. It doesn't take care of itself. So there's always funds that need to be raised. There's always organizational things that need to be handled, coordination with the schools, scheduling, the ability to travel. All of these things take time and money.
It certainly sounds like you have the buy-in of all the schools, too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
But again, I mean, for us to travel this far down into the Connecticut, that's a long haul,
Right.
and it makes our job very difficult. So it really is the kind of thing that local areas need to figure out how to get that thing working for them, and to understand the value of these programs.
And I've noticed over the course of the last couple of years, there are, Westfield has its Westfield Theater Group, but then there's Exit 7. There's a whole bunch of different theaters in the area.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they should have if they're not already, worked together to develop a youth educational program.
I think that sounds good on paper,
Right.
But it's what's difficult there is to get any kind of arts organizations to work with each other. They're so busy trying to just make it on
Good
their
point.
own
Yep.
that spending time and effort working with other theaters who may have not the same kind of philosophical line of thinking, that can be very difficult.
Good point.
So it's not an easy solution, and it really takes a kind of awareness or consciousness of the fact that in the midst of all what goes on in our lives, taking time for our kids to have programs that keep them engaged in this kind of way is a very important thing.
Right.
But, you listen to the public dialogue these days, and it's so hard to get your message out in the midst of all of this noise that's going on. And notice that in all the gas, you don't hear a whole lot about the arts, period, at all. In the last 3 years, I've heard nothing on the federal level about the arts at all, other than what you can generate by specific search. It's not a topic of conversation.
True.
But think of people's real lives. Think of what parents do with kids after school is over. Think about how they're trying to find things for their kids to engage in. Community activities, live things that engage their imagination as well.
There's more out there than just sports.
Exactly. I was just about to say that there's more out there than just sports. And in terms of economy, we always think, sports are great, blah, 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 and it is. But the arts are 10 times the value of sports in terms of
could not agree with you more.
economy.
When I interview folks from some of the area theaters, I had Silverthorne Theater on, Playhouse and Park, the smaller theaters, they're all trying to put educational components together. And they said that getting the funding for it from either individual contributions, area businesses, foundations, and all is really tough. But Berkshire Theater Group has an incredible development and advancement program that's really sought out a lot of money.
Yes, but that takes years.
Yeah.
Kate has been working at the Berkshire Theater Group for over 25 years. This was just her 25th anniversary. That's 25 years.
To build that.
That's how long it takes to build something like that, and to have access to those funding sources, and the funding sources having confidence in your reliability to deliver on the things that they're giving you money for. That takes time to build that.
And then those funding sources also see the benefit of it too.
Yes,
when Travis goes out to how many different schools throughout the school year to see these performances take place, they're more willing to donate again because they see the benefit of where their dollars are going.
It's easier to raise money for these kind of programs than it is to raise money for our general budget.
Wow, that's interesting to know.
Well, because everybody wants, if you're a corporation or an organization and you want to get a profile in the community, helping kids is a very good way to go.
Right.
But sponsoring my darker vision of the universe and the unicorn, not necessarily leaping to the top of their list all the time. Sometimes. But you can see how that becomes.
Good point.
If you're trustworthy, though, if they see you have a track record working with kids for a long period of time.
Now, I know Kate said that you won't be announcing the upcoming season until sometime after the first of the year, like January, February. But Travis, do you have plans already set for some of the shows the kids can do into the spring?
Not with any of our musicals yet. I mean, we still have our in-school playwriting and after-school acting classes that we have going on. And then, of course, Christmas Carol is the main focus right now. But I'm sure, Kate is in the process of pulling all that kind of stuff together.
And one of the things that you were responsible for that I think is very unique anywhere, in the spring, usually around the beginning of May, you either bring to the Colonial or the Unicorn the high schools presenting 10 minutes of their school musicals or plays in cabaret. And I guess from what people have said, there's a lot of talent among these high school kids in the Berkshires, a lot of whom are participating in what you're offering at Berkshire Theater.
No question. I mean, I think the talent spans every different age group in the county. I mean, there's so much, and performances like that are a great outlet for the kids to be able to come and sing songs or present some of their musicals or participate in a show that we do over the course of the year. I mean, doing Aladdin Jr. and the Lion King Jr. over the last 2 years in the spring has been like something that really has helped develop our educational program.
Now, I got to have you explain, when you say Lion King Jr. or Aladdin Jr., explain what the junior part is.
So the juniors are designed for probably like 14 and 15 years old and below, and they're hour-long cuts of the show. So it's all the favorite tracks that we all remember, with probably some like a bridge dialogue. And then we just did Willy Wonka Kids, and the Kids brand means that it's a 30-minute show, and it's designed vocally for like the elementary age.
How do the kids do with it?
Incredible. I mean, their commitment and excitement was inspiring. I mean, I think we probably had 16 or so rehearsals for Willy Wonka, and 3 or 4 rehearsals, and the kids memorized their lines, and a few more after that they memorized their choreography, and it was all very, very simply done. But to see how excited they'd be after a run through to get notes and work on making things better, but then also build these incredible friendships. I mean, it's part of the whole thing that gets them excited.
So the quick education of the students on these performances, is it because they've seen the movies? And they could probably, I know when my kids were little, they could recite these movies verbatim from start to end. So does it help the kids if they've seen the bigger picture?
I think stuff like that will of course help. I mean, also I think that we have a certain sort of system and way that we prepare for these shows, as far as how we're teaching music and teaching choreography and going over staging and the process of review and giving notes that we'll use for the kids brand, the junior, for other shows that we're working on. So in a sense, I mean, I look at it as all these different tiers. So how are we kind of meeting the needs of the entire vision of the education program, of course, with Kate McGuire, but as far as from show to show to show, what are we trying to teach and instill in these kids as far as the basics of theater, or going over some maybe more complicated sort of techniques and skill development?
But no matter, they all gain something, either group dynamics, discipline, memorization, regardless of what roles they all play.
It's beyond theater. I mean, they're really getting these life skills. I mean, I think being able to listen to each other and work together and project manage are things you will use for the rest of your life, whether you're doing theater or something else.
Okay, I have a question for Eric. And first of all, I have to say congratulations on being nominated for a Berkshire Theater Critics Association Award for your production of the Edward Albee's Sylvia or the Goat.
Thank you.
It was so thrilling to see your name listed among the nominees. I regret that I did not see it. But what are your plans after Christmas Carol? Are you going to direct again next year? Or you said once that you were sort of retired. But what's next on your agenda?
Does anybody in the theater ever really retire?
That's a good question. I'm not sure that that's possible. I'm failing miserably at retirement. It appears. I'll probably go on till I say it's time to stop. I must admit, I felt like it was a good time to step down when I was saying I was retired there for a little bit, but the times have sort of ignited me a bit to say, oh well, I might as well leave it all on the field instead of sort of walking away. And since the time I have decided, oh well, I'm not retiring, it's gone extremely well. So I think
you get reinvigorated a little bit.
Well, not only invigorated, I think your perspective changes, and so the way you go about your work is different, and the quality instantly goes up because you've freed yourself from a certain kind of sense of obligation to anything that's irrelevant, and you just do the work, which is great, and surround myself with people who just do the work.
Well, I was going to ask you that. I mean, you're very fortunate in part of Berkshire Theater Group to have a wonderful staff and coworkers such as Travis to be able to pass on some of those former responsibilities and feel confident that things are going to go exceptionally well.
That is very true. More than that, I think over the years that Kate McGuire has succeeded in creating an extended family of actors, designers, people who I can access, with whom I have a very close relationship, who I've done many productions with. David Atkins, for example, who was nominated for Best Actor by the Berkshire Theater Critics for the play we did together, and has been several times. Those kind of relationships are what make the quality of what we do, I think, so high, because we are ever deepening relationships artistically that have a long history, and that doesn't mean we do the same thing every time. What it means is we have the confidence to do very different things every time because we have such solid footing, I think, with each other.
Right.
And we can go into some very, very difficult places successfully. I think Sylvia, who is Sylvia, is a case in point. It's a very difficult play, very complex play, one that requires real careful handling. Misinterpretation is a real easy pitfall in that play. And so that's the result of that. So again, how does that happen? Well, that takes 25 years to build that.
Well, it's funny, you've talked about Kate's involvement, your involvement for 25 years or so. Mm-hmm. Berkshire Theater Group has been around much, much longer than that. You guys just celebrated a
90th.
And that was that 2018 or 2017?
That was
I'm losing track now.
The year before.
So 2018.
Yeah.
So for 90 years, to your point, you guys and Berkshire Theater Group has developed this group of folks who, and some very famous names, have graced the stage and worked behind the stage.
That's correct.
But created this family of folks who want nothing more than to see this group succeed.
That's correct.
And put on great shows.
That's great. So and there's a tradition there, and something that has length and depth to it, and that is important. Mm-hmm. Those values are important.
Yeah. Berkshire Theater Group, though, is like a big family in many ways. A lot of people that work there or continue to work there say they like coming back, they feel comfortable, and all of that. You've worked with a lot of different resident theater companies across the country over the years, and you tried to build that feeling at Stage West when you were there. But are there any other theaters that you worked at that had that sense of family, or is this unique to Berkshire Theater Group?
I think there are. I think there are fewer and fewer as time has gone by. Certainly, my career spanned 4 decades, and the company was still a very vital idea in the regional theaters when I first began. I was a member of a company at Milwaukee Rep. The Guthrie held a company. The Alley held a company. A lot of the major theaters held some kind of standing company, actors who lived in that area who were of a high quality, who performed in those plays regionally all the time. That has slipped away a bit, and now actors are brought in from New York on a cyclical basis, in for a show, gone, that kind of thing, pickup groups. That's just been the way of the world for some reason. Sometimes audiences, may not want to watch the same actors over and over again. Some audiences do. It's a very tricky thing to negotiate. Right. An extended family is a much better solution because you have more actors to bring in and out. They're much more carefully selected to be right for the role, and I think that's a special chemistry that takes a long time to negotiate and yet try to include as many people as possible.
When you choose to direct a play at Berkkshire Theatre Group, or you're asked to, do you have, as you're reading that script, do you see in your head certain actors you've worked with over the years in specific parts, or do you wait till the audition process begins to count?
I don't do much of auditioning anymore. I rarely have auditions at all. I pick all of my plays and pick the people. It's interesting to note, when I looked at the list of people, all the nominees at that award ceremony, I saw several of my former students nominated.
That's good.
And the fellow directors were people I had directed myself.
Wow.
At one time or another, with the exception of the gentleman who directed Top Dog, Underdog. I had worked with every single one of the other people. So, you get on in this profession age-wise, and, you see a lot.
But that's a good accomplishment for you, too, to
yeah.
have worked with all of those folks
Sure.
and seen them mature through their professional.
Absolutely. I mean, here these students are out, and they're operating on a very high level, and I'm very proud of that, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I in most years previous, I have been a nominator for the Berkshire Theatre thing, and I voted. This year, having missed so many months and feeling I couldn't vote for something I hadn't seen.
Of course not.
So I ended up.
Don't worry about it, though. You could have, because a lot of the critics I see, and I can see them, come to the show, sleep through it.
Yeah.
So they haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
What an embarrassment.
I think it's great.
And they write a review.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I sat next to one a couple of weeks ago at Hello Dolly that was out cold, and it was hard to be. The show was fabulous. It was hard to be out cold at Hello Dolly,
Right.
but getting a nice catnap in there,
Yeah.
and the others that use the text during shows, when they say put your phones off, and they're so busy
texting away. Yeah.
But I thought the one thing about the Berkeys that I think is so incredible is that we have a wealth of talent
Yes.
that has come to the Berkshires and stayed in the Berkshire.
Yes. Well, let me say a word about award ceremonies. I understand them. I understand what the purpose is. But to my way of thinking, they are appropriate to the commercial theater. They are an advertisement for what we do. The basic nature of them is a kind of self-congratulations in front of an audience so that the audience will come. But we in the non-for-profit business are not in competition with one another. We are doing something very different from that, and one that I think, to some degree, this sort of award ceremony makes no sense. I looked at the list of people, and they're incredible talent, all of them. What's the purpose of a best of? That means somewhere along the line you think there was a worst of.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
And,
No, I agree.
I
agree.
think that kind of thinking is absolutely antithetical to what I think about when I'm actually working on the plays. It doesn't enter my thinking.
You're not there for the award.
No, I'm not there for the award.
Right.
I'm there for the experience. And that's what shows up in the productions. And so are the people I work with. So to me, I kind of look at this and go, well, this is all lovely and all, and thank you for, the acknowledgement. However, what's the point of all of this?
Although I find it interesting. I mean, I agree with you in the fact, I'm glad that it promotes the talent that we have in the region. Yeah. But I see bios of actors in other theaters where they say they received the Berkey, the Berkshire Theatre Critics thing. So to an actor or some directors, it's very, very important. On the other hand, I'm sitting here starting to plan a column of what I thought was the best of the year. And it's very difficult because, as you said, people say, well, if you thought that was the best, what did you really dislike? And if we read between the lines, can we find out what you thought was the worst of the year? And it puts you in a conundrum.
Well, yeah. Again, I mean, I have no issue with the actors being, honored, and for them to be able to use that in their bio. I think that's all to the good. I mean, I could go out and find Travis a hunk of plastic over here in the workshop and hand it to him and say, fabulous, and this is this, and he could put it in his resume and it would sound good.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take.
If that's what people are trying to get on their resume for their careers, if they think they're going to bounce anywhere from a Berkey in their professional career, they're wrong.
Absolutely.
And so why are we even wasting our time with that? Why don't we spend our time doing, and I'm sorry if I'm being critical to a critic here, but I have free mic. No,
you say whatever you like.
I will. I think that it's important that critics recognize that there is a larger issue at hand than this sort of comparative analysis of their opinion, their singular opinion of what went on in the course of a very long summer with literally hundreds of productions.
Yeah.
What they should be promoting is an awareness audience-wide of the quality of the work that's going on, featuring individuals and groups and productions and different articles, follow-ups, that kind of thing that advances the art, and not the critic as star, which is what a lot of this ends up being. Now, they're online and they're not writing in a newspaper. They're trying to get themselves recognized as being legitimate. And I don't think of them as illegitimate at all. I don't think of them as being legitimate. I don't think of them, period, as an artist. What I would, if they would address it like Mark does, here we sit. We're having a long, lengthy, in-depth conversation. This is what it should be like. Right. That's the nature of criticism, in my opinion.
Well, I totally agree with you.
He earns the right to write about it because he's out here talking to us about it, right?
I totally agree with you. I feel that so much work and effort goes into a play or a musical from not only the director or the playwright, the actors, but the set designers, costume designers.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to acknowledge that these people put weeks and months of planning and rehearsing to put a show on the stage. You can't just knock it down because you don't like it. You have to acknowledge the fact that it's a collaborative art and it takes a lot of energy and effort. And I try to be cognizant of that, not only when I see a show, but when I write about it, that I don't want to knock anybody down and I don't want to seem like the important person that my opinion is extremely important. I'm writing for the people that are interested to going to a play and want to know, should I go?
Right.
And that's I wish my colleagues that are arts reporters and critics would adhere to that in some cases rather than wanting to read their own words or hear their own voices.
I don't think any of us have ever been to a show you didn't like. But and when you say you don't like
haven't
it,
seen as much theater as I have.
But you may, and I've been to shows. I don't like. Maybe I don't like the storyline.
Yeah.
But I still appreciate like to Mark's point, everything that went in. Those actors and actresses and the costume designers, amazing talent. But they shouldn't. If you don't like a show, you shouldn't judge it in a harsh way.
I got to tell you, there are a lot of Act Twos that I've only seen simply out of respect for the fact that they're people who are doing this, and to walk out would be rude.
Right.
So I don't, but I would if I had my druthers, because sometimes things are just boring, and maybe I'm not in the right frame of mind. Maybe this isn't a top, but that happens. That can happen to a critic. They could have had a bad day and walked in and didn't like the parking
As
attendant,
Mark said, falling asleep next to him.
and fell asleep, or whatever. A million things could happen, and it deeply affects what they have to say on that given night, and I've seen that happen.
Right.
So, I mean, there was but more importantly, and that's all sort of trivial stuff, right? More importantly, they had a category in this. It's very important. They had a category in this award ceremony that was ensemble production, best ensemble production, and they had, like a dozen candidates in every other category. They had only 3 candidates in this category, and one predetermined winner. It was a production. It was a regular production. I was like, I don't understand this category. Every production is an ensemble
right? That's what I was thinking.
Why is it a different category? What are you honoring here? Because every production I've been in is an ensemble production.
No, I agreed with that, and
so why is that there?
I don't know. I mean, I'm one of 3 arts reporters from the Valley that is part of this.
Right.
And I mean, I argued for coverage of certain theaters in Hartford, which is contiguous, and all these Berkshire critics are down in Hartford covering stuff at Hartford Stage and stuff. And that was the only thing I argued about, but I thought it was very important. They have an award called the Larry Murray Award, which is to honor somebody who has done extraordinary work on behalf of the theater in Berkshire County. And I thought that was the most important award, because these people that are giving of themselves to build an institution rather than a specific play need to get recognized.
Well, I think that's a very valid award, and I think that that's the kind of thing you should be focusing on. That to me is exactly what I'm talking about. That's an enhancement for everybody. No, there's no loser in that award, right? Do you see what I'm saying? All I'm saying is when you do the other thing, what you're implying was the other productions were losers.
Yeah, no, it's an implication that's wrong.
And that's wrong.
But I think a lot of it's in the way it's presented. I mean, because the Tony Awards is the same thing. You either
they're
win
all the same.
or you didn't win.
Right.
And there's no in between.
And there's careers that are made and broken on the basis of that. That is ridiculous.
Right. Exactly. Anyway, we're going to take another break because we have underwriters to acknowledge that make us all possible. I'm Mark Auerbach with Patrick Barry, and from the Berkshire Theater Group, Eric Hill and Travis Daly. We will be right back after a couple of announcements.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State T-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Welcome back to Art Speed, everyone, here on 89.5 FM WSKB and Westfield Community Programming Television Channel 15. We're broadcasting from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, who has provided a home and also a training ground for high school students that are interested in sound equipment, video, film, and broadcasting. So maybe they'll begin a program here that will develop students to take over those things here in Western New England. I'm with Patrick Barry, my favorite co-host.
Wow,
Patrick
I got favorite co-host.
Yeah, Patrick and I have done some really good Art Speed programs together, and I'm here with two of my favorite people from Berkshire Theater Group, Eric Hill and Travis Daly. So for me, this is a great show.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. We're only a couple weeks away from...
Yeah, we are. So Christmas Carol runs when till when?
It runs from December 7th to the 21st at the Colonial Theater in Pittsfield.
And the place to get tickets is berkshiretheatergroup.org. And Eric, coming back to a show, you only, it seems this year, act in Christmas Carol the last few years.
That's right.
How much of it do you have to relearn, or does it stick in your head?
You want to do it right now?
Yeah, the whole thing?
The whole thing. I can do the whole thing.
We got 8 minutes.
I have behind us, I have the Colonial Theater, but I forgot to do a photo of the set so we'd feel more at home.
No, I could wake up on the day of the first performance, having not done it since last year, and do it.
Are there other plays that are stuck in your head?
Not like that.
Well, you've done it. You mentioned earlier in the show, 18?
16th time.
16th time.
18th production in this area. But
wow.
16 is Scrooge. So, yeah.
You know it.
I could do it in my sleep.
When you decided to do it, Berkshire Theater Group, did you went back to the production you had adapted before? Did you have to change some of your adaptation to fit the various spaces?
No, not at all. Make the various spaces fit the text.
Wow.
It works the other way.
So no other plays are stuck in your head?
Well, there are plays that are stuck in my head and parts, but not to the degree that this one is. This is one of those stories. It's one of the basic stories. It's a basic fundamental core story in the Western canon of literature, which I'm, as a student of English literature, is very, very dear to me. And this is a story that is lodged dead at the heart of that. And so it exists in my mind, but more than that, it exists inside a deeper part of me than just my mind or my memory. It's in my bones, and that's how I remember it. It's a physical thing as well as a memory thing. So I can't remember why I came into this room half the time, right? But that is lodged in my memory for some reason.
And what about you, Travis? You've directed it several times. Is it up here, or do you have to go back to the script in your notes?
I think I know a lot of it. There's definitely moments where I need to go back and review some words, but I'm not the person delivering those words, so I count on other people to take care of all that stuff.
When he gets 16 years into it, Mark, it'll be much easier.
Right.
There's a music to Dickens' language. There's a rhythm and a music. It's like a score. And so part of teaching the kids and everybody else to do it is to get them to learn the music. It's called A Christmas Carol.
Right.
So it's got a musical element to it in even the speaking parts. There's a rhythm and a sense of that language, and you got to get that right. If you get that right, all the bells and whistles and
everything goes smoothly after
are irrelevant compared to that.
I know he wrote it as a book, but when was it first adapted as a stage play?
Oh, God, I have no idea. I think the phenomenon really began with the American Regional Theater movement back in the 1960s, 70s, and most of those theaters began to do A Christmas Carol as a way to as it was a cash cow for the rest of the season. And so every regional theater did it, and every regional theater had their own adaptation.
I'm going to ask,
and that's how I came up with mine. We did the same thing when I was at Stage West. Well, let's do this because every theater, and certainly we needed saving, and so we did that. We saved the theater twice with doing Christmas Carol. Just saved the theater from closing the doors.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm going to ask a question that's probably going to sound foolish, but has it ever been on Broadway?
Not to my knowledge, but I do know that somebody like Patrick Stewart has done a one-man Christmas.
That's right. I forgot about that. You're absolutely
There have been productions.
The musical version,
musical versions.
Yeah, certainly not the straight play though.
And there are quite a few adaptations of it that take it a step further. That are out there. During the holidays.
I think the Michael Caine Muppets Christmas Carol is one of my favorites.
Yeah, and oddly enough, Goodspeed redid it, but set in Connecticut on the stage of the Goodspeed Opera House.
There you go.
With that William Gillette, who built Gillette's Castle, conjuring up to play Scrooge, and other Connecticut authors telling him how to play it. And but there's nothing like going back to the original source.
Well, people have been trying to get around the actual success of the story because people feel like they're tired of it, and the professionals who do it. But the audience doesn't get tired of it. No. They're always kids, new kids.
Well, that answers my question.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen again next year?
Of course.
And
it's
the year
happen
after.
As long as we do it.
Good.
Why not? But I mean, for people who produce it, go, oh God, we're so tired of doing this, and it's just a cat. It's like, no, you're forgetting the audience. They want it. They need it.
Do you think it's similar to the Nutcracker, where it's an annual? It happens all the time. Do you feel that the Nutcracker is a very similar performance from a ballet standpoint?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Well, last week we had the Albany Berkkshire Ballet people on, and we were talking about Nutcracker's a cash cow for a dance company, and it wasn't created. Tchaikovsky and the Russian ballet people did not create it as a holiday thing. It was dancers that came to America that said we should do this at Christmas time, and it's a cash cow for any ballet company that does it.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing.
you know.
Same idea.
And although there are other theaters around, at least in our part of Western Mass and Northern Connecticut, like Theater Works in Hartford went completely away from it and created their own thing called Christmas on the Rock, which includes Tiny Tim coming back to a neighborhood bar as an adult, totally dysfunctional, along with Clara from the Nutcracker. And that's their holiday brand. But they're competing with a well-known Christmas Carol down the street at Hartford Stage.
Yeah,
and it's their cash, cow. And I'm surprised that it's not on Broadway or some touring company doesn't bring it in every year.
Well, remember how expensive it is to put something on Broadway, and then for a guaranteed limited run,
Right.
Hardly you're going to make your money back at all. And there's so many ways to access Christmas Carol besides that, that I think for investors it's just a no-go.
Are there any adaptations besides Berkkshire Theatre Group of Christmas Carol that you've seen over the years?
Oh, yeah, many.
That were really superb in the way that they interpreted the story?
Well, yeah, a lot of them. Unfortunately, they forget the fact that there's an audience full of kids, and you better not take more than an hour and a half.
Right.
Because if you do, you got chaos on your hand for the last half hour.
Exactly.
I've been in this show when that happened. By the time I played Fred one year, and by the time Fred shows up in the second act at his party scene,
The kids have had it.
they've had it.
Yeah.
And then once Scrooge has his transformation, then they're back again for the ending, and it's all good. But that part of the play, the kids are laughing and talking, and you're lucky if you don't get pelted with an M&M. So I've been there, and I've just learned through that in my adaptation. We have a first act lasts about 45 minutes, take a 15-minute intermission, and the second half lasts about a half an hour, and they're out of there. And the kids last the whole thing, and they get the whole story, and they get the full impact. So that to me seems to be what is missing in most of the productions that I've seen. That and not that I dislike it, but you get a lot of bells and whistles productions where all that stuff is really spectacular, but the real value and the warmth of the show can get buried under all that sometimes. I'm not saying that happens. I haven't seen the Hartford one, by the way, and I hear it's spectacular.
Well, the Hartford one is all special effects and sound and lights,
Right.
and it really is a fantastic theater.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's absolutely
totally nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely
it's
nothing.
dazzling on every level.
But see, then you have two very different Christmas carols.
And yours has a heart.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not putting Hartford stages down. When you get beyond the special effects and everything, I thought, wow, this is a spectacle.
Yeah.
But I kept asking myself, where's the heart in it? Where with the Berkkshire Theatre Group one, the heart is there from the minute the
very
curtain
beginning
goes
to the
up.
very-
And,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's also the fact that it's local children,
Correct.
local community people,
Right.
and it has a different energy level.
Right. Well, once again, I remember the audience. As I get older in this profession, I begin to remember the audience more and more. Right. Remember the audience. They are the people you're performing for. Know who they are. Treat them with respect and understanding. And regardless of who they are, whether it's in Hartford, Springfield, the Berkshires, whomever, you need to know your audience and to help them come into whatever it is that you're doing. So that's why we create our production the way that we do. It would be inappropriate to do any other production.
Since you're somebody so well known as playing Scrooge, do kids come up to you on the street after they've seen Christmas Carol?
How much time do we have? A very quick story?
Yeah, we have probably a couple of minutes.
Okay, I was during my period of temporary retirement. I never missed a Scrooge, but I was thinking about retiring at the time, and I was doing some. A friend of mine is in the antique business, big outdoor antiques, and he came up to this area because of the
Brimfield.
The Brimfield thing, and he came up from Florida, and we were shopping in the area, and he picked up some stuff over, and we were over in Housatonic, and he was picking up some outdoor big stuff. He was out with the guy doing the bargaining, and as I was there, the kid was home, a little kid, and he was stalking me in the backyard with his little rifle, going through, and I was, having a good time, sort of ducking and dodging him, and then his mom came home. And I started to talk to her, and she was a nurse over in Albany, and a really nice woman. The guy was nice, and she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I live in the Berkshires here." I said, "You may know me. I play." She said, "You look familiar." And I said, "Yeah, you probably know me. I play Scrooge in production of Christmas Carol every week." She goes, "Oh, that's who you are, of course." The little kid dropped his rifle, ran over and grabbed his mom's leg, and was holding on for dear life. and she said, "That's Mr. Scrooge. You know who that is?" And he went, "Mm-hmm."
That's funny.
She said, "Well, that's your favorite story, isn't it, Christmas Carol?" He goes, "What's that about?" And the little boy said, "It's about a mean old man who changes and saves a sick boy."
Perfect.
And I thought to myself, retirement just went off of the table, because there is a child whose life you had a very, very strong impact on. You could see it just the way he reacted when he saw who I was.
And boiled it down to just a handful of words.
It down to the essence of the story. And it was so powerful to me in that moment that I thought, well, yes. Now, does the girl at the public market call me Mr. Scrooge? Yes. I get that everywhere. I mean, after 40 years in the theater, doing everything from, the Greeks to Beckett, I'm Mr. Scrooge. So that's a reality you have to live with.
But it's a great role to be associated with because it's a great piece of literature,
Absolutely.
and a great play.
I'm not ashamed of it. I'm very proud of it.
Well, folks, we are about out of time.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank both Eric Hill and Travis Staley.
Thank you.
For coming down from the Berkshires to talk about A Christmas Carol. Go to berkshiretheatergroup.org and get your tickets soon. And Pittsfield is a great place to be during the holiday season. There are some restaurants around and all kinds of good stuff.
There's already snow there.
Yeah, make it a good family outing. And thanks to Patrick Berry, my co-host, who I always love getting the opportunity to work with. Peter Coles has been our chief engineer today. We are thankful to the folks here at Westfield Technical Academy and Studio 120. And we'll be back next week with another Arts Beat. We're leaving you today with Michael Bublé.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more. Through the years, we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more. Through the years, we all will be together, if the fates allow. So hang a shining star above the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas.